Good evening, Navika, and good evening to all my fellow panelists. I've been listening very patiently to the to and fro. I hope my esteemed friends, in fact, not just friends, today it's a very lucky day because I got two brothers on the panel, Shehzad and Tehseen, and I'm going to grill both of them, if I may. But first, can I please condemn my other good friend, Sanjay Jha, for the real foul language he's used. Sanjay, this is a Times Now debate, not the Lok Sabha, so please hold your horses. Navika, as far as Tehseen is concerned, he took my name. You know, I keep repeating this. Tehseen, please heed more to your brother-in-law. Navika, you have a credit card, I have a debit card. Tehseen used to have a victim card, but now he's got a new card. नया कार्ड आ गया, whataboutery card. मोदी को अब्यूज किया, अरे मोदी ने भी किसी को अब्यूज किया. कांग्रेस का करप्शन चल रहा है, अरे बीजेपी का भी करप्शन चल रहा है. कांग्रेस को ईडी में बुलाया, अरे बीजेपी. हर चीज का whataboutery. Two wrongs don't make a right. So now let me address the issues, Navika, and there are two. And both the parties are involved. कोई भी दूध का धुला नहीं है. First, let me address Congress, and then I'll come to the BJP, and then I'll ask Shehzad, my good brother, a very good question, which he has to answer, incidentally, only a yes or no. I'll put him on the dock. Navika, first on the abuse. You know, if Narendra Modi took a rupee for every time he was abused, slandered, vilified, and maligned by the Congress, honestly, he'll be a billionaire by now. He called नीच, नाली का कीड़ा, हिटलर, मास मर्डरर, खून की खेती करने वाला, यमराज, पागल कुत्ता, बंदर, भस्मासुर. I mean, the list goes on and on. Remember that Congress's, what was his name, Imran Masood, who threatened to chop Modi in pieces, boti. So this is nothing. I'm sure he'll take it in his stride. Now the second issue, more pertinent one. And here I do agree with Tehseen and with Sanjay to an extent, because every CBI or ED raid or summons carries the backing politically motivated, even if it is not, because number one, the investigative agencies are not apolitical or independent. They remain parrots. And when you domesticate a parrot, Navika, it finds its own favorite shoulder. And right now, the shoulder is of Modi. And if those being chased by the ED are politicians, the only alternative for them is to join the BJP. From Goa to Manipur to Bengal to Karnataka, every single politician, when in trouble, has dipped himself in this Behti Ganga, that is the BJP. Then miraculously, all leads go cold. All investigations come to a dead end. In fact, remember when BJP's GVL Narasimha Rao had wanted an ED raid and had written to the Rajya Sabha Ethics Committee alleging involvement of TDP's YS Chaudhary in court, massive financial bungling and fraud of 5,700 crores unquote, and sought his disqualification over a court, serious breach of ethics unquote. Before the Rajya Sabha could act, Mr. Chaudhary joined the BJP, forcing Mr. Rao to eat the humble pie. So the only way Rahul can escape this, सत्याग्रह or no सत्याग्रह, is for him to join the BJP. जैसे कई लोग कह रहे हैं वो already BJP में है. Now finally, 30 seconds, Navika, you gave me the narration of this case. According to me, I am not a lawyer, but according to me it's an open and shut case. But this is the question to Shehzad. There was another case that in no small measure was responsible for BJP coming to power in 2014. That was the 2G case. 70,000 crore ghotala. I want to ask just one question to Shehzad. Shehzad, do you think A. Raja was guilty in the 2G case or not? Yes or no, according to law?
No.
Navika, I want to make a very important point. Sanjay, I've been waiting for a long time, yes, and thank you. And I want to make a larger, point, because Navika, your debate started brilliantly. Because this public, Indian public, is tired and exhausted that people who it believes should be behind bars are still roaming around in the open and claiming that, they are victims and they have to organize satyagraha. People are tired. And let me tell you, I believe that this is an open and shut case. I'm not a lawyer, right? Half the lawyers believe he's innocent, half believe he's guilty. I believe this is open shut. I also believe that Raja was guilty. I also believe that 76,000 crores का घोटाला हुआ था. The point is 10 साल हो गए हैं, एक आदमी जेल में नहीं है. Now let me quote verbatim from the 2G judge. I'm quoting now. You can see. I'm not making this up. These are the judge's words, and I want to say this because this is the larger point. None of these guys are behind bars. The judge, I'm quoting, quote, in the beginning,
the prosecution, i.e. the BJP, organized by the BJP, started with the case with great enthusiasm and ardor. However, as the case progressed, it became highly cautious and guarded in its attitude, making it difficult to find out as to what prosecution wanted to prove. And by the end, the quality of prosecution totally deteriorated and it became directionless and diffident. In the final phase of the trial, no senior officer or prosecutor was even willing to sign the applications. And what happened?
And
every one of us
that is really a question that people of India will ask. You can question politicians forever. I'm running out.
Navika, I won't even take a minute. I want you, and I love posing yes and no questions. They're very exciting. And they also reflect the thinking of a person. So if I may, I request you to go around the panel and ask this yes and no question, because we're talking of Mr. Sharad Pawar. Should the Vohra committee annexures, a committee that was formed by the Congress to investigate the underworld politician nexus, should those Vohra committee annexures that were blocked by Mr. Pawar be made public? Yes and no. Simple question. No, Navika, here, if I may, Navika, I want to indulge, because you are a very caring mother. I want to indulge your benevolence in this, because we talked of Mr. Sharad Pawar. For the last 30 days, a young girl who suffers from terrible epilepsy has been thrown in jail because all she did was passed on a WhatsApp forward that mocked Mr. Pawar. There have been more than 20 FIRs, as Times Now reported this morning. So I appeal, normally when people are made presidents, they have this amnesty where they let off prisoners. Here, a prospective president, Mr. Pawar, with folded hands, I plead to you to please take back all those FIRs against that young epileptic
in which
girl
case, Jasmine Shah, your answer.
Good evening, Rahul, and good evening to all my fellow panelists. Rahul, what the Jharkhand CM said, virtually apologizing for maintaining law and order, is a slap on the faces of the underpaid, overworked policemen who are our first and last defense against murder and mayhem. There are two ways about it. Anyone who saw those scenes in Ranchi, Jharkhand, those last gasp efforts of the brave policemen at maintaining law and order, when being overrun by religious fanatics and hooligans out to destroy property and kill innocents, would be ashamed of Mr. Soren's apologia. Galti ho gayi, he says. Sorry, Mr. Soren, you should instead apologize to your police forces. Tell me, how else are you supposed to contain a mob blocking roads, baying for your blood, shouting Sar tan se juda, hurling stones at you, charging at you? What else are you supposed to do when all your previous efforts at containing them have proven futile? Is firing live rounds not a prescribed action? Doubtless, any loss of life is tragic. But look at the circumstances, Rahul. Did you not hear that teary-eyed policeman, the clip you are yourself showing, screaming for extra support? It was either him or the mob. What does one do under such circumstances? But Rahul, in apologizing, is Mr. Soren the exception? Sadly, no. Every government, state or central, does this, has been forced to bend before such bullying and appeasement. But they don't mind shooting 30 Ram Rahim supporters. No, then there is no outrage. Do you recall how Kashmiri Islamists pushed children in front so that when they are injured through pellets, their sleeper cells in the media splash those images all across the world, blaming our security forces? Let me now show you a photograph, Rahul. Do you know what this is? This is tens of thousands of people collected at the funeral of the terrorist Burhan Wani. If someone didn't know his antecedents and landed there by chance, he would think that Wani was a saint and had been murdered in cold blood by the security forces. In fact, even when knowing that he was a terrorist, the communists said his killing was extrajudicial. Some politicians called him a martyr. Others called him a youth icon. The then chief minister virtually apologized in her condolence message. And if you think this is a particular breed of politicians belonging to a particular ideology, no. That's not the case. It was the Modi government that freed 9,200 stone pelters, some of who had killed and maimed our own Jawans. God knows how many of them, once freed, went on to pelt stones and killed more of our Jawans again. Rahul, just 30 seconds. The sad truth is, India has now been given a choice as clear as day. If you do not stand with your last defense, our security forces and our policemen, then I'm afraid you stand alone.
and you stand opposite a mob that is glaring at you, and once after that pregnant pause wherein it has identified and recognized your helplessness, it will charge at you with stones and kill you. You need to make that choice before it is too late. All of us need to, Rahul.
Yes, Dr. Ranganathan.
Very briefly, Rahul, this is not the first time you have caught my good friend, very dear friend Tehseen's hypocrisy. He asked for, I remember I was in the same debate, he asked for Mr. Amit Shah's resignation. But today, he is not demanding Mr. Soren's resignation, but I want 3 points. Let's not be flippant, shall we? Tehseen, I'm going to answer you because you took my name. 3 points. Number one, Rahul, Tehseen has agreed with you that the rioters were not innocent. Point number one. Point number two, I am not a policeman. Tehseen is not a policeman. None of us are. The policemen on the ground, you have shown the clips. They were frantic. They were crying. They were asking for support. They were going to be run over and murdered and killed. In that situation, I want to ask a simple question to Tehseen. Isn't firing live rounds in the police manual or not? And number three, where was Tehseen?
No.
He was actually applauding the police action when Baba Ram Rahim supporters, 32 of them, were mercilessly and ruthlessly killed by live bullets. He did not ask for the Chief Minister Khattar's resignation that day. I remember he was on television. So Tehseen, the fact of the matter is that this was either you are with the mobsters or you are with the police. We all have to choose now. That state has reached. Vivek, I'm sure you're going to be gentlemanly, comrade, and not interject me or interrupt me because I waited for you to finish and you took my name. So let me please rebut you. Thank you. Rahul, I'm absolutely shocked and flabbergasted that my good comrade Vivek is saying that Baba Ram Rahim and firing on 30 of his supporters and killing them was a law and order problem. But India burning 3 days ago, 30 states and cities virtually lit up. Ranchi, in dire straits, he is saying, his words I'm quoting, he's saying was not a law and order problem. But I don't blame Vivek because Vivek's party is the same party on record, and even Shashi Tharoor has mentioned this. So Tehseen would back me up. Has said that CPIM was the only party in the world that publicly hailed his words and Communist Manifesto's word, hailed the Tiananmen massacre in which 10,054 innocents were murdered alive. They hailed it. Number two, when
no, you are diverting.
You have same Vivek 2 days ago, Rahul, on your show saying that it depends on the condition, the context of using Gustakhe Rasool ki ek hi saza, sar tan se juda, sar tan se, it depends. He doesn't wholeheartedly condemn it.
Yeah,
Same guy.